You ever notice there's this person in your life who always has it worse than you? You have a bad day at work. They had the worst day imaginable. You're dealing with something stressful. They're dealing with something catastrophic. You're tired. They're exhausted. You're hurt. They're devastated. And at first, you think, wow, this person has terrible luck. Let me help them. Let me be there for them. Let me support them through this. But then months go by, maybe years, and you realize something that makes your stomach sink. Their problems never end, their suffering never stops. But somehow they're still standing, while you're the one who's completely drained. And that's when it hits you. They're not actually falling apart. You are. Because while you were busy saving them, they were busy using your empathy as a weapon. And the craziest part? They convinced you that helping them was your responsibility. Here's what most people don't understand about professional victims: they're not weak, they're not helpless, they're strategic. Psychologists call this victim manipulation or weaponized vulnerability, and it's one of the most effective control tactics that exists because it's wrapped in something that looks like need. When someone is suffering, your instinct is to help. That's empathy. That's human. But people who manipulate through victimhood have learned to exploit that instinct. They have figured out that if they position themselves as perpetually wounded, you'll perpetually try to fix them. And while you're fixing them, they're controlling you: your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, your choices. All of it gets absorbed into their endless crisis cycle. And you don't even realize it's happening until you're completely empty. But if you're watching this right now, I'm guessing you're starting to see the pattern. You're what therapists call a chronic rescuer, someone with a strong helping instinct who's been trained to believe that other people's pain is your responsibility. And that's not a character flaw, that's conditioning. But here's your wake up call. Some people don't want to be saved, they want to be centered. They want their suffering to be the main character in every story. And they will drain you dry to keep that dynamic going. So let me show you the 5 signs someone is playing victim to control you. Because once you recognize this manipulation, you'll never let it work on you again. Sign number 1, and this is the clearest tell. They have a crisis for every boundary you try to set. You say, I need some space, and suddenly they're having a breakdown. You say, I can't help you with this, and suddenly they're in the worst situation of their life. You try to create any distance at all, and boom, instant emergency. This isn't coincidence. This is strategic. They've learned that crisis gets your attention. And more importantly, crisis overrides your boundaries. Because what kind of person sets boundaries when someone is suffering, right? That's the trap. They're not actually in crisis. They're manufacturing crisis to keep you engaged. I watched someone do this to a friend of mine for over a year. Every single time my friend tried to pull back, this person would have some catastrophe. Their car broke down. They lost their job. They had a health scare. They got into a fight with someone. It was always something. And my friend would immediately drop everything to help. Because how can you not help someone who's struggling? But here's what I noticed that my friend couldn't see yet. The crises only happened when my friend tried to create space. When my friend was fully available and attentive, everything was fine. The second my friend had other plans or needed time alone, emergency. It was like clockwork, and that timing, that's not bad luck, that's manipulation. They were using crisis as a leash. Here's what research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology shows. People who chronically play victim have significantly higher rates of what's called strategic self-handicapping. They create or exaggerate problems specifically when they sense someone pulling away. It's a psychological tactic to recapture attention. And it works because most people can't distinguish between a real crisis and a manufactured one, especially when the person seems genuinely distressed. But here's the thing. Real crises don't have perfect timing. Manufactured ones do. If someone's emergencies consistently happen right when you're trying to set a boundary, that's not life being cruel to them. That's them being strategic with you. Sign number 2. They're always suffering, but they're never changing. This is the one that finally made me see what was happening. You give them advice, they don't take it. You offer solutions, they don't use them. You help them 10 times with the same problem, and somehow they're back in the same situation again, asking for help an 11th time. Their suffering is their identity. They don't actually want it to end, because if it ended, they'd lose their power over you. As long as they're suffering, you have to keep saving them, and they know it. I had someone in my life who complained about the same relationship problem for 3 years. 3 years. Every conversation was about how badly this person was treating them, how miserable they were, how they couldn't take it anymore. And I'd give advice, set boundaries, have a conversation, leave if it's that bad. But they never did any of it. They'd agree with me in the moment, say, yeah, you're right, I need to do something. And then nothing would change. And I'd feel guilty, like maybe I didn't explain it well enough. Maybe I need to help them more. So I'd spend more time talking them through it, more energy trying to fix it. Until one day I realized they didn't want it fixed. They wanted someone to absorb their complaints. They wanted the attention that came with suffering. The moment I stopped trying to solve it, they found someone else to vent to. What? Yeah. Psychologists call this secondary gain. It's when someone gets benefits from their problems that outweigh the motivation to solve them. And the benefit they get from playing victim is attention, control, and excuse to avoid responsibility. Think about it. As long as they're the victim, they never have to take accountability. Everything bad in their life is happening to them, not because of them. They're powerless, which means you have to do the work. You have to accommodate them. You have to adjust your life around their suffering. And that's exactly where they want you. They've built an entire system where their pain equals your obligation. And the system only works if the pain never ends. Sign number 3, and this one will make you so angry when you see it. Their problems magically become your responsibility. Not just your concern, your responsibility. They don't ask if you can help. They expect it. They act like it's a given. Like, of course, you'll drop what you're doing to handle their crisis. Of course, you'll sacrifice your time, energy, and resources. Because look how much they're suffering. How could you not help? And if you don't, they make you feel like you've abandoned them in their darkest hour. Even though their darkest hour happens 3 times a week, every week, forever. I saw this happen with a coworker who turned every work problem into everyone else's emergency. They'd miss a deadline, and suddenly it was a group project to save them. They'd make a mistake, and everyone had to scramble to fix it. They'd be overwhelmed, and the whole team had to redistribute work to help them. And they never said thank you. They never acknowledged the help. They acted like it was owed to them, because in their mind, they were suffering, so of course, most people should help. That's just what you do for someone who's struggling, right? Except they were struggling every single day, and everyone else was burning out, trying to compensate. The person playing victim was actually doing the least work, because everyone else was doing their work for them. Here's what researchers on victim mentality have found. People who chronically adopt victim status transfer responsibility for their problems onto others at significantly higher rates. It's called responsibility diffusion. They genuinely believe that their suffering means other people should fix their life. And the more you help, the more they expect. You're not helping them get back on their feet. You're teaching them that their problems are your job. And they will keep creating problems for you to solve as long as you keep solving them. Sign number 4. They play suffering Olympics. Your pain is never as valid as theirs. You mention you're tired, they're exhausted. You mention you're stressed, they're at their breaking point. You mention something difficult you're dealing with, and they immediately one-up you with something worse. They can't let you have your moment, can't let you receive support. Because if you're the one being supported, they're not the center of attention. And that's the whole point. They need to be the most wounded person in every conversation, the most burdened, the most struggling, because that's how they maintain control. I had a family member who did this at every gathering. Someone would share good news, they'd share bad news to overshadow it. Someone would mention a challenge, they'd jump in with a bigger challenge. Someone would be upset about something, they'd explain why they had it worse. It got to the point where people stopped sharing anything, because what's the point? Every conversation just became about them anyway. And if you tried to call it out, they'd act hurt, like you were being insensitive to their pain. They'd make you the bad guy for wanting support, for wanting to be heard, and that's the manipulation. They've trained everyone around them that their suffering takes priority over everyone else's humanity. What's fascinating about this from a psychological standpoint is it reveals what's really happening. Real suffering makes people empathetic. It opens your heart to other people's pain because you know what pain feels like. But weaponized suffering does the opposite. It closes them off, makes them competitive about pain. because they're not actually trying to heal, they're trying to control. And the way they control is by making sure they're always the most victimized person in the room. That way, all the resources flow to them, all the attention, all the accommodation. Everyone else's needs become secondary to their crisis, and that's exactly how they want it. Sign number 5, and this is the one that makes you realize it was never about help. They punish you when you stop saving them. You set a boundary and they withdraw. You can't help one time and they give you the silent treatment. You prioritize yourself and they tell everyone you abandoned them. They don't accept that you have limits. They see your limits as betrayal. Because in their mind, if you really cared, you'd sacrifice everything. The fact that you won't means you are selfish. You're cruel. You're the problem. And they will make sure you feel that. I had someone completely cut me off because I couldn't help them move. That's it. I had a work commitment I couldn't change, and I said, "I'm sorry I can't help you move, but I hope it goes well." And they never spoke to me again, didn't respond to messages, didn't acknowledge me when we were in the same place, just completely ghosted me. And at first I felt terrible. Like maybe I should have canceled work, maybe I should have been there for them. But then I talked to other people and realized I wasn't the first person they'd done this to. Anyone who couldn't drop everything for them got the same treatment. Cut off. Labeled as fake. Talked about behind their back. They weaponized their disappointment. They punished anyone who dared to have boundaries. Research on narcissistic victim mentality shows that people who manipulate through victimhood have extremely low tolerance for not getting their needs met. They experience other people's boundaries as attacks. Because to them, your inability or unwillingness to help isn't about you having limits. It's about them not mattering enough. And they can't handle that. So they punish you. They withdraw affection. They badmouth you. They play the victim to other people about how you victimized them. It's a complete reversal. You go from helper to villain. And that shift happens the second you stop serving their needs. Now, here's what you need to understand about all 5 of these tactics. They work because they exploit your best qualities, your empathy, your desire to help, your inability to watch someone suffer without trying to fix it. These aren't flaws, these are strengths. But professional victims have learned to turn your strengths into their weapons. They've figured out that if they perform suffering correctly, you'll hand over your time, your energy, your resources, and your boundaries without them ever having to ask directly. The suffering does the asking for them, and you comply because you're a good person. But here's your reframe. You're not helping them by enabling this pattern. You're hurting yourself, and you're actually hurting them too, because every time you rescue them, you prevent them from learning to solve their own problems. Psychologists who study codependency have found that chronic rescuers and chronic victims create a toxic feedback loop. The more you help, the more helpless they become. The more helpless they become, the more you feel obligated to help. It's a cycle that benefits neither of you. You get drained, they stay stuck. Nobody grows, nobody heals. You're both trapped in roles that were never meant to be permanent. But one of you has to break the cycle, and it's not going to be them, because the cycle works for them, doesn't work for you. So you have to be the one who stops. Here's what that looks like practically. Next time they have a crisis, you say that sounds really hard. And then you stop. You don't offer solutions. You don't drop everything to help. You don't take responsibility for fixing it. You acknowledge their pain and you let them sit with it. This will feel cruel. It will feel like you're abandoning them. But you're not. You're giving them the opportunity to handle their own life. And one of 2 things will happen. Either they'll figure it out because they're actually capable and they were just using you, or they'll escalate because you're not playing your role anymore. And that escalation will tell you everything you need to know. When you stop rescuing a professional victim, they don't thank you for setting a healthy boundary. They punish you. They find someone else to manipulate. They tell everyone you're heartless, because to them you stopping the enabling feels like betrayal. But that's not your problem to fix. Your problem to fix is the part of you that believed you were responsible for another adult's emotional well-being. You're not. You never were. And here's your permission slip because I know you need it. You are allowed to let people struggle. You are allowed to have boundaries, even when someone is suffering. You are allowed to prioritize your own well-being over someone else's crisis. You are not responsible for saving people who refuse to save themselves. And here's the thing nobody tells you about walking away from professional victims. You'll feel guilty. You'll worry about them. You'll wonder if maybe you should have helped just one more time. That guilt is normal. That's your empathy. But empathy without boundaries isn't kindness, it's self destruction. And they're counting on you feeling too guilty to protect yourself. That's part of the manipulation. They've trained you to believe that your guilt means you are wrong, but your guilt just means you care. Caring about someone doesn't mean destroying yourself to save them, especially when they're not actually drowning. They're just performing drowning, and they're very good at it. Here at Cycly Obsess, we don't just talk about psychology, we make it make sense. If this video helped you recognize a pattern you've been stuck in, hit subscribe, because next week we're breaking down why some people can't be happy for you when good things happen, and what that reveals about them. Your future self, the one who finally put themselves first, is already thanking you for watching this. You were never responsible for carrying someone else's life, and realizing that, that's not selfish. That's survival. You've got this.